Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Chiranjit Mishra and today I'm going to discuss all the news items of March 7 News Today. As is customary, let's quickly go through the headlines and then we'll discuss each news item one by one. Well, there are 4 main news and 8 quick updates. Okay, one of them is actually a place in the news. So the main news are, a very important step has been taken by 2 state governments, Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh, and they have announced to ban social media for children. Karnataka for children below the age of 16 years, while Andhra for 14 years. India's unique digital public infrastructure model, which has been praised, nothing was in the news as such, but DPI, which is digital public infrastructure, a field or area in which India has done really well, starting from UPI, CoWIN, Diksha platform. We'll discuss. Then a very novel research which has been conducted by the IASC in collaboration with another body. We have developed a brain co-processor, just like that Neuralink project, but something that is a modified version of the same. The 4th main news is about participation of women in agriculture. Okay, again this is a generic topic, but because we are celebrating the International Year for Women in Agriculture, as sponsored by the United Nations. So that's why it was in the news. Now let's quickly go through the quick updates. Nearly half of migratory wildlife protected under the UN treaty, which is Bond Treaty, it's declining, mostly mammals and birds. And then the center has invoked the Essential Commodities Act, taking into consideration what is happening in the Middle East. And there is a fair chance the energy market has already been hit, starting from oil and gas. And that's why we have, the center has made sure that enough LPG is available for normal consumers. Now, first of its kind, ocean thermal energy conversion plant is going to be established in Lakshadweep, so which can generate energy. At the same time, it can also act as a desalination plant. That means we can convert ocean water into drinkable water. The next news is about the engagement of India with the 3 Cs initiative, and this happened on the sidelines of Resina Dialogue 2026, because the 3 Cs initiative is actually something that comprises the countries that are bordered by 3 water bodies: Baltic, Adriatic and Black Sea. So India wants to connect or enhance its connectivity with the countries of that region. Next news is about the rediscovery of 2 species which are thought to be extinct 6,000 years ago. These are marsupial species. That means they have a pouch using which they can hold the young ones. And these are like arboreal animals, okay? Marsupial just like kangaroo and koala, and discovered in New Guinea. Next news is about the reaffirmed commitment to wildlife conservation. Again, a generic news. This is something that Honorable Prime Minister said, because we recently observed World Wildlife Day on 3rd of March. Okay. Then another controversial news, which is I think going to grow in size and importance, which is the role of artificial intelligence in Golden Dome, a defense system which the United States is planning on, just like Iron Dome. So it is a system which can intercept missiles coming from the enemy side. But for that you need data analytics and AI models are required. So one of the company's AI startups declined to be a part of this program. Last news from economics. So open market operations. So RBI is going to purchase government securities. That means it's going to inject liquidity into the market. And today's place in the news is Soloman Islands, a Pacific island and a part of FIPIC, of which India is the lead. So let's quickly go through, after having gone through, now let's discuss the main news items. And let's begin with this important news. I don't know whether UPSC is going to ask in a direct question in prelims, but it's very important from the point of view of mains, especially GS paper 2 and 4. Mostly GS paper 2, because social media, if used in an unregulated manner, can be a big menace, especially for children. It can be a huge problem for the parents also, because the days are gone when children used to read books. Now information is gathered from social media, browsing on the internet, okay, interactive sessions on social media platforms like WhatsApp, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Now that can affect the mental health, that is already affecting the mental health of children. So 2 Indian states have taken this initiative. They have not enacted the bill yet to ban social media for children of different age categories. Now we are trying to follow suit because many countries globally, like Australia, they have banned social media for children. And some have actually made it mandatory to register to mention the age, supply documents supporting their year of birth before accessing social media. But here, Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh, they have announced. And there are several challenges ahead because many experts believe that this is not something that falls under the domain of the states to enact. Okay? Because it's the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology which is in charge of regulating social media. Okay? So let's quickly go through whatever the news is. And why ethics GS paper 4? Because there is a guideline which is called digital media ethics. And because when young children are involved and you are going to be a bureaucrat, maybe a case study like question can be asked. Okay? For example, a crime has been committed, or juvenile delinquency. Okay, you can relate that aspect to the side of social media. So Karnataka for 16 and Andhra for 13, not 14. Okay, Andhra for 13. So economic survey had already flagged this problem. It said that many children in India are affected by social media, and these two states decided to take the initiative. Okay. And what is the significance? As you all know, there is nothing protect children's mental health online, because when you spend a lot of time online, you actually get detached from reality, what's happening in the real world. Okay. Address cyberbullying, reduce excessive smartphone and screen time. Sometimes when you spend so much time on social media, you find it difficult to focus on your academics. Okay. Screen addiction harms cognitive development. That means your ability to think and take decisions. So as you know, to promote healthier lifestyle, we are doing everything. As I said in the beginning, so screen time addiction, it harms cognitive development. That means your ability to take decisions. Okay. Encourage reading and offline activities. Okay. Only if you you are able to find some time out from your social media and your mobile addiction, you'll be able to focus on your studies. Promote healthier lifestyles among students. Of course, health is actually a comprehensive concept. It's not just about your physical well-being, but also mental well-being. Okay. Now, what are the hurdles? What are the hurdles? Internet regulation falls under union government. First of all, there is no subject in Schedule 7 of the Indian Constitution which deals directly with the internet. Okay, there is no list, no subject under 7 schedule. IT Act 2000 governs. So the ministry in charge is MeitY, and on the basis of the act we have rules which is called intermediary guidelines. And recently it was amended also to make sure that AI generated images do not mislead people. So this is another aspect. So these are the areas where there can be a clash between the state laws and the central government. Age verification systems remain technically difficult. How to verify age? For example, if somebody is 14 years old and while using social media, there is an option, please mention your year of birth or DOB. And there is no document validation. It's not cross-checked with any official document. So there is a lot of laxity. So that needs to be checked also. Maybe somebody can forge documents. Monitoring minors' online activity is very challenging. Okay, so that's why some people have suggested, experts, it's better to spread information about how to use the internet in a useful manner. Okay, spread education. So these are good fodder for your mains preparation. Spread education as to how the internet and social media can be used in a self-beneficial manner. As I mentioned in the beginning, some countries have already taken steps in that direction. Australia recently banned social media for children under the age of 16, and Spain made it mandatory that age validation has to be ensured. Age verification, okay? A question was asked, not related to social media and children, but social networking sites in 2013, 10 marker. What security implications do these sites present? So as you know, data breaching, privacy, these are the different aspects that you can easily cover. Okay. These are security challenges, not social media as something which can affect your mental health. Okay. So now you're in a better position to write an answer. That was in 2013 when social media was on the rise. Coming to the next news, which is related to again digital technology, digital public infrastructure. As I mentioned in the beginning, there is no specific news, but India's DPI, digital public infrastructure, has been praised worldwide because India has created a very solid digital infrastructure or architecture, you can say. We are not just as a country consumer of foreign websites or apps or platforms. We have our own independent foundational systems. Okay? That means those systems on the top of which other digital websites or platforms are built, starting from identity-based, which is Aadhaar, okay, which creates a solid foundation for identity verification. Next is your UPI. You see PhonePe, everything is based on UPI. Third is your CoWIN platform in healthcare, okay. Then there is MOOC platforms where free education is provided, Diksha platform, okay, for online content for students and teachers. So foundational infrastructure is there. They can be accessed. For example, UPI, foundational infrastructure is that infrastructure which can be used by private players to provide new types of services. Once you have UPI, now you have PhonePe, Google Pay, everything. Okay. Again, Aadhaar enabled verification of different, banking, etc. Everything, or Aadhaar linking with PAN card. So India has a solid foundational digital infrastructure system. So that is why it was in the news. And we are going to say how we are going to discuss how India has fared so far. Okay. Let's move to the next page. So India adopted public good digital infrastructure model. That means it shifted from consumer to digital architect. Instead of relying upon foreign digital platforms. For example, earlier it was PayPal. PayPal is very old. Or there was Google Pay, which happened much later. But if you remember, when demonetization happened, that time it was very difficult to pay money using these mobile apps. There was no PhonePe was very new. But now there was Paytm, okay? But these were not very popular. But now the government of India, after this initiatives taken by NPCI, now you have UPI platforms based on which money transfer can take place in real time, okay? So that's why instead of being consumer of foreign products, we have created our own architecture. DPI enables population scale digital system. It can be enlarged also. It is scalable. Okay. UN defines DPI as foundational digital systems, as I mentioned in the beginning. Enables secure citizen business government interactions. Okay. Using UPI, which is a government enabled system, you can transfer money to any other agent. Ensures access regardless of geography. Ensures access regardless of socioeconomic status. You don't have to pay anything to be part of UPI. So people from lower economic background can also take the help of these infrastructure. Similarly, CoWIN, which was very popular during your COVID-19 vaccine, if you remember, okay, CoWIN platform, using which you could easily get your dates booked for vaccination. Okay. So that is also enabling the government to gather a lot of data. Public governance protects public interest, of course. It forms the bottom line of DPI. Okay, and UPSC has also asked a question related to digital public infrastructure. We'll go through that. Very easy question. Before that, let's go through the achievements. So achievements of DPI: reduced leakages in welfare delivery. Of course, when you pay the amount online, everything is tracked, history can be checked, so nobody can commit any kind of fraudulence. Saved 4.3 lakh crore in via PFMS. UPI handles 49% of the global real-time payment. That means if 100 rupees has been transacted, of that 49% takes place using UPI. Okay, the volume is very high, transaction volume. India Stack expanded beyond digital payments. So India Stack refers to this entire infrastructure, India Stack, on which, for example, Aadhaar is one layer. Based on that, there are different systems which use Aadhaar enabled systems. For example, you have UPI, then based on UPI you have BHIM. Okay, so multi-layered platforms. And it has expanded beyond digital platform. That means we are not only creating UPI based platforms, we are also sharing our open source with other countries. For example, how to build a website like CoWIN. Okay, health sector CoWIN, e-Sanjeevani platforms. E-Sanjeevani is just like the Desi version of Practo. Okay. Okay, desi version of Practo, using which you can get doctor appointments, or you can look for quality hospitals. Diksha, as I said, is for education. ONDC network. Unlike Amazon and Flipkarts, you can also have brick and mortar shops who can be easily discoverable on this platform. So you can find a buyer, a kirana wala, using this network. Okay, ONDC. So it is also an open network. Judicial Services e-course and digital platform. UPI is now operational in 8 countries. So many people are also accepting or validating India's own homegrown product. Okay. A question was asked, which of the above are built on top of open source digital platforms? Arogya Setu, Cowin, DigiLocker, Diksha. So these gained popularity most of these gained popularity during the COVID time. All the 4 are correct. Okay. Arogya Setu, Cowin, both related to healthcare, DigiLocker to safely or securely store your documents, and then Diksha, which is related to education. The third main news is about this new technology which is called brain coprocessor. As you know, that brain is the processor of a human body, just like a CPU serves a computer. Similarly, brain serves human beings or all the living organisms. Okay, especially high order living organisms. Now, what if your brain is partially functioning? Sometimes, for example, people suffer from different diseases or say brain stroke, and after that they suffer from paralysis, temporary paralysis. Although they can think, they're not able to move, they're not in a position to move their limbs. So now using coprocessors, your brain can easily send signals to your limbs or what they want, and that can function easily. That means it's going to enhance neural functions, okay? Neural or nerve functions. Now this is not a commercialized product. This is what IISc in collaboration with another body have conducted this research, and it's at a research level now, not commercialized. If you are aware of this another related development which is called Neuralink, which is brain computer interface. That means the brain's signals can be easily encoded and decoded. This is a similar technology but slightly more advanced, because now you can also move your limbs. So that means it's bidirectional. It cannot simply read your brain signals but also can take instructions from brain to different parts of the body. Okay. So Neuralink is, I think, one of the Elon Musk's initiatives. Neuralink. This is called BCI, brain computer interface. This is called brain coprocessor. Okay. That means it's going to aid and enhance the productivity of brain. And it is not just for those people who have suffered brain strokes. For example, there are potential misuses also. For example, if you're in a position to think normally, behave normally, but you want to boost your capability. Maybe you want to increase your brain capacity, your thinking ability. So for that also you can use brain coprocessors, which is one of the potential misuses. Because if it is used in an unregulated manner, the true worth or potential of an individual cannot be assessed. Project focuses on brain coprocessors, develop implantable and non-invasive systems. We are not going to surgically implant anything. Okay, that means you have to open your cranium, you have to reach your brain, and you have to plant something there. No, that is not going to happen. We are just going to send electrical signals. Okay, so the technology is called sending, as you saw in the beginning, it's called TDCS, transcranial direct current stimulation. Cranium is the protective layer over the bony layer over your brain, which protects your brain. Current can be sent through cranium, and it can be received through cranium also. That means you are not going to implant anything. It's a superficial thing. Okay, it's a superficial thing here. So that's why it's called non-invasive. Invasive techniques, they enter your body. Non-invasive do not enter your body. Non-invasive. It's not going to enter your body. So it's not going to cause you any pain or go through any detailed procedure, medical procedure. Okay. Now, signals processed and re-encoded into brain uses neural stimulation techniques. About brain co-processors are AI-powered neural interfaces, as I said. They decode and analyze brain signals, also re-encode signals and send them back to brain. That means they're bidirectional. They can interact with the brain. It's not one-sided. Your brain will keep sending you signals. It will also send signals to brain. Go beyond conventional brain-computer interfaces, because most of the traditional BCA are actually one-sided. Okay. Non-invasive brain stimulation, NIBS, which is non-invasive brain stimulation, modulates brain activity without surgery. Okay. As I mentioned in the beginning, I have already discussed also. Does not require brain implantation. Concerns kya hai? Ethical concerns. Okay. Because just like a new technology, which is very promising, just like we have already discussed several times, designer's baby. That means genetic changes can be introduced favorably. Your baby will have tremendous potential. It will be already, those features which can negatively impact your baby can be excluded. So this is an ethical concern, because everyone is going to use this technology to have a healthy and productive baby. That means you're doing something that goes against the laws of nature. So this thing can also go against the laws of nature. Ethical concerns over neural data privacy and autonomy. Safety risks associated with long-term neural modulation or implants. There is one negative impact also. We are not aware of the side effects of this technology. How is it going to impact your brain? So not just misuse, but also side effects. Then possibility of misuse for cognitive enhancement or surveillance. Now, if secretly somebody can wear a cap and enter the exam hall. Now, these days, the rules have become very tight. And using that cap, maybe it's a very small device which can transmit signals to your brain. Or maybe you can gather information from your brain and transmit it to some other individual using Bluetooth technology. So it can be potentially misused. Need for robust regularity frameworks and ethical oversight. So that's all about the news. Now, fourth news, participation of women in agriculture. It's not just about India, but we are here going to focus on India from the perspective of UPSC civil services. But as you know, every year is an international year as announced by the United Nations. So 2026 is an international year for three things. You can note it down. One is for international year, means IY, for women in agriculture, which is the topic of the day. The second is for volunteers in sustainable development. Second international year. Third is your rangelands and pastoralists. So again, it's related to category of people. The first one is related to agriculturalist, women agriculturalists, and the third one is related to pastoralists. Okay. So one such international year is your women in agriculture. Okay, I hope you understood. So let's take a quick look about the participation of women in agriculture, which is a good thing. That means an area of economy which was actually male dominated is also inviting more and more women. But in India, it is not happening in a healthy manner, because as per a government report, maybe agricultural census 2015-16, yes, we have mentioned it, nearly 80% of the farmers are women, but they're not the ultimate landowners. Although they work on land, but they are not landowners. Okay. The number actually varies. So this is as per agricultural census 2015-16. So nearly 10 years ago, 63 to 73%. Now many reports say it's close to 80%. So 80% of the agricultural workers and farmers are women. But very less, maybe around 12% are actually landowners. We have to depend upon new data. So census 2027 is going to happen soon. So the data will be updated. But again, the picture is not something that we should feel proud of. Women are taking part in agriculture, but they're not ultimate landowners. And when you don't own the land, you miss many privileges. It becomes difficult for you to get loan. Okay, property transfership, and also it comes in the way of women empowerment. Okay, so these are the broad issues, and it's very important from the point of view for mains exam. Women operate 11.72% of the agricultural land. Okay, but the participation rate is so high, but the operational rate is so low. Lack of land ownership persists, as I said. Land titles enable access to credit, also required for crop insurance. Because everything, all the privileges, financial and non-financial, they're given to the landowners. But women in India are not normally the landowners. So we can say Indian agriculture is actually going through this ironical phase in which males actually dominate ownership, but when it comes to working hard on the field, it is dominated by females. Responsibility without power. What are the measures that have been taken in this regard? Mahila Kisan Sashaktikaran Pariyojana, empowerment of women. Okay, that comes under, I think, your NRLM, National Rural Livelihood Scheme. So under this Pariyojana, that means Yojana means scheme. This is a sub scheme. Pariyojana. Okay. Female agriculturalists, farmers, they are trained. They are made aware of the new technology available in the market. Okay. Instead of putting in a lot of physical effort, they can take the help of machines. So they are trained in that direction. Self-help groups and microfinance promote women's. Okay. So that they become the women of India who are engaged in agriculture, they become financially empowered. Lakpati Didi scheme, again it's related to finance scheme. Namo Drone Didi initiative, 15,000 women SSGs with drones. So that will improve your agricultural productivity. A question was asked, discuss the various economic and socio-cultural forces that are driving increasing feminization of agriculture. Feminization of agriculture means increasing participation of women in agriculture. As I said, nearly 80% of the women are part of our agricultural workforce. But what are the push factors or what are the pull factors? In agriculture in India, you all know, pull factors to na ke barabar hai. Most are push factors. Number one kya hai? Men are moving away to cities. They actually work as industrial laborers. So who are left behind? Female. Who is going to take care of the village land? Of course, women. Second, illiteracy. Third is, again, a part of it is digital illiteracy. Third, lack of skills. So these are, and then nuclear families, another social trend. So there is nobody at home. If there are other people, they can engage in productive economic activities. So who are left behind? Females. And now in villages, we don't see large families like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Ultimately, it falls upon the women of the family. Okay. So these are the push factors which are actually furthering this trend. Okay. Now let's quickly go to the place in the news, which is Soloman Islands, and the reason is an earthquake, and it is close to the Pacific Ring of Fire, which is seismically very active. As you can see in the maps, I hope it's visible. This is your Pacific Ocean. Okay. That means if you go in this direction, you'll find the United States. So this is your Australia. Northeast of Australia, you can say, Soloman Islands. And it's surrounded by other countries like Kiribati, Tuvalu, Fiji. Okay. And they come under this islands of the Pacific Ocean, and there are 14 such known countries plus 14 Pacific Islands which are countries plus one. Together they have formed FIPIC, okay, Forum for India Pacific Islands Cooperation, which was launched in 2014 by Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Okay, so Solomon Islands is one such country, and its capital is, as you can see, Honiara. It's difficult to pronounce. Okay, and location is southwestern Pacific Ocean, but as you can see, it's slightly northeast of Australia. And it consists of nearly 1,000 islands, 6 main islands, and over 900 small ants scattered over a large territory. So that's it. Let's move to the next piece of news. We start with quick updates. Now recently a report has been released by under Bonn Convention, which is also called this CMS, Conservation on the Migratory Species. So those species which actually migrate from one country to other. So regarding their conservation, a treaty was signed, which is called Bonn Convention. And it is called Bonn Convention because it came into being in Bonn, Germany. Okay. Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species. So nearly half of the protected migratory species, the population of the same is declining. This is as per the report. And what are the challenges or the reasons behind this declination? It is actually number one, climate change. I think it's already written. Habitat loss, food habits or food sources are depleting. Okay. You can ignore this part. So CMS, also known as Bonn Convention, and it was signed in 1979, but it came into force in 1983. Okay. India joined in 1983. That's all. Essential Commodities Act 1955 invoked. It's an old act and it came into being when there was severe food crisis in India. And there was also back-to-back famines. And if you remember that time there was a scheme using which India used to import food grains from the US, which is called PL 480 scheme. Okay. So that's why a bill was enacted and which came to be known as Essential Commodities Act. This act unfortunately does not specify which are essential commodities, because essential commodities keep changing from time to time. Because which things are essential only time will tell. Of course there are certain food grains which are essential, like rice, wheat, pulses, without which we cannot live. But now if you take into consideration this US-Israel attack on Iran, the entire Middle East region is affected. Now India depends upon Middle East for oil and gas imports, especially from two countries, Qatar and UAE. We import both natural gas and petroleum gas. So petroleum gas is your propane and butane, and natural gas is methane. Okay. I'm explaining because this part is very important. It has an environmental aspect, also basic science and science and technology aspect, basic science aspect. So this is methane. Okay. Now the government has said, because LPG is now liquefied petroleum gas is an essential commodity, it cannot be hoarded and its supply has to be made sure. It has to be ensured that its steady supply is not disrupted. That is why petroleum gas is not going to be used for any other purpose, only for LPG cylinders. Because we rely upon LPG gas, okay? That is the fuel we use, or maybe CNG in the form of liquefied natural gas. But LPG is the most popular source of fuel used in domestic households. So its supply should not be disrupted. That's why butane and propane have to be used only for LPG, or first priority should be given to LPG cylinders, okay? So this act has been invoked to make liquefied petroleum gas an essential commodity. No specific definition is there. If you ask me about the act, Essential Commodities Act में कोई लिखा नहीं गया कि these are the essential commodities. It only mentions that Schedule 2A, a particular section of the act, I don't remember exactly, कि under that particular schedule, whatever is defined, it can be considered as an essential commodity. Okay. First of its kind, integrated ocean thermal energy conversion. As I mentioned in the beginning, it's going to be established in Kavarati, the capital of Lakshadweep. Okay. Lakshadweep is one of the 8 union territories that India has, and this plant is going to serve two purposes. Okay. First is electricity generation. How electricity is going to be generated? Again, the same process, by moving the turbine. As you know, this is an ocean, so the top layers are actually hotter than the cooler layers. Okay. Especially in the tropical areas, the surface layers are very much heated up. So there is a temperature difference. say close to 20-degree temperature difference is required. Now, when a liquid, the functional liquid is passed through the hotter layer, it will become vaporized and that will be used to move the turbines. Then again it can be recycled. It will be brought down to the cooler layers. It will come in contact. It will come in contact with the water in the cooler layers, and it will again become liquid. So this cycle goes on. Desalination is going to be done using a process called reverse osmosis, RO. The same technology that we use at home. That means some pressure will be applied on the salt water side. Here we will have fresh water, F for fresh water, and here we will have ocean water. When pressure is applied, minerals and salts will remain on this side and water will come to this side. So this plant is going to serve as an electricity generator, at the same time fresh water producer. Okay, and it's a first of its kind project launched in Lakshadweep. 3Cs initiative, 3SI. So this initiative has been led by a group of countries which form the part of, you can say, Central Europe and Eastern Europe. Okay, very close to Russia, but on the other side of France, not France or Spain. For example, countries like Czech Republic or Slovakia or Slovenia. Okay, so and Croatia. So India wants to connect with these countries because they have plenty of opportunities when it comes to emerging technologies, okay, and petroleum products. So from the point of view of emerging technologies and energy security. So India is engaged with the 3Cs initiative, and this happened on the sidelines of Resina Dialogue, okay, which takes place in Delhi, on the sidelines of Resina Dialogue. So India plans to engage with these countries. 3Cs means those countries which are bounded by 3Cs. One is Black Sea, Adriatic and Baltic. Okay. As you know, Adriatic is a part of Mediterranean Ocean. Focus areas are infrastructure, energy security and digital connectivity. And participants, Central and Eastern European countries. This much is enough. I think maybe UPSC can ask a question. In 3Cs initiative, which are the 3Cs included? They will also add an option, say Caspian Sea or Aral Sea. Those will be the wrong options. Okay. Now scientists have discovered two species which are thought to be long extinct. So scientists believe that these two marsupials are those mammals which have a pouch here, just like kangaroo, and they can hold or contain their young ones in that pouch. So they're mostly found in Australia, New Zealand, and Southeast Asian countries, just like Indonesia. Okay, so two such species they call possum species. Okay, this glider and possum. Even this glider is one kind of possum. You can check the names also. They look like koala only, very small, slightly like rat and slightly like fox. And they are arboreal animals. They can easily survive on trees. So these two species have been, they were believed to be extinct like 6,000 years ago, but now they have re-emerged. You don't need to remember their names. The most important point is marsupial. UPSC these days asks questions which sit on the border of environment and basic science. Which of the following species are marsupial? Okay, so glider and possum they may ask. Not very important, I would say. India reaffirmed commitment to wildlife conservation. So because on June 5th we observe the International Environment Day, and on March 3rd we observed the World Wildlife Day, and India showed its commitment to protect and conserve wildlife. This part is important from the point of view of, I would say, the political aspect or the constitutional aspect. Not political aspect, polity aspect. Okay. So what are the constitutional provisions that make sure that environment and wildlife in India are protected? First is your right to life, Article 21, that is related to environment and human beings. Protection comes under fundamental duties and DPSP. Article 48A, okay, Article 48A and 51G, 51AG, fundamental duty number 7, okay, which expects people to protect the natural environment. The role of AI in the proposed Golden Dome. This news is going to grow in importance, I'm pretty sure, because this is something. There was a startup company called Anthropic. I hope you all know its name. And the United States Department, concerned department, which is I think Department of Defense, which is actually trying to further its new defense system, which is called Golden Dome. Just like Iron Dome, which is Israel's own defense system. That means any missile which is coming from an enemy country can be easily intercepted. So US already has, I think, THAAD. A question was asked in 2019 or 20. THAAD. Another defense system, but Golden Dome is more advanced. It is going to use AI and data analytics. So it sought the company's help. The company said, no, we cannot risk the privacy of our online consumers or customers or subscribers. So that is why there is a rift between the United States Department and this company. That is why it was in the news. But you need to know, they may ask, कि Golden Dome किसका defense system है? The United States. Okay. So THAAD was your terminal high altitude area defense, because such a question was asked. कि THAAD is the defense system of which of the following countries? India, Israel, US, or any other France. So maybe again UPSC can ask this question, or maybe pair-based question, Golden Dome, Iron Dome, and some other, say S400. The last quick update is about open market operations by the RBI. You know, this is one of the tools, quantitative tools that the RBI uses to manage inflation or money supply in the market. When there is less money, it infuses money, or you can say boosts liquidity. When there is a lot of money in the market, RBI tries to bring into its own hand some amount of the money. Okay. So open market operations, in this case, RBI is going to purchase government securities. Purchase means you're going to buy something by paying money. So RBI is going to purchase these government securities from the commercial banks and other financial institutions. Okay. So that means RBI is going to give or put money into the market because it's going to buy something. And whenever money supply increases, that means liquidity is boosted or liquidity increases. Okay. And whenever RBI sells government securities, what does it do? It acts like a sponge. When you sell something, you get the money back from the market. And whenever RBI feels that there may be a scarcity of money, the government, the commercial banks may not be in a position to continue their lending activities. RBI gets involved in this. So now RBI wants the commercial banks to have enough money so that they can also lend to the end customers. Okay. So it's going to take place in 2 tranches, and the total amount involved is 1 lakh crore. Okay. So now you know the method is buying government securities from the market. Purpose is to inject liquidity into the banking system. That means the commercial banks will have money to lend to the end customers. Impact supports lending and financial market stability. So, and because if people do not have enough money, then demand will fall. Okay, and when demand falls, then there is a recessionary situation. People don't want to buy things. Part of the RBI's monetary policy operations. So that's it. That's all about today's news today. And now 6 questions will flash on your screen. Do take them. And please make the most of Vision IS's initiative, which is called Digital Current Affairs. Okay. See you next time. Wish you all the very best.